touch on my earlier question in terms of AMCON's being compelled, if you like, by the economic circumstances of a few domestic carriers. So if you could touch on that and make your concluding remarks. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The AMCON case gives us an opportunity to learn quite a bit about things we tend to do wrong. You know, this concept of too big to fail. You know, why wait till something becomes too big to fail? Again, it's one classic example of how the economy is intertwined. And because the airline industry is so sensitive to the economy, if one side of the economy drops the ball, you get the impact. Banks lend money to these airlines, you get. Now, what is happening? The main issue for me with the AMCON thing is, my understanding was it was meant to be a quick, move in and move out. But those are the kind of things that are distorting competition. You have a carrier who have said, look, we've demonstrated we can grow, we want to grow faster. But you are keeping airlines subsidized, for want of a better term, and barely existing. And then you are having people lease aircraft to those entities to keep them running. What we need to do is face the fact that aviation, when it goes wrong, has societal costs. How do we address those costs proactively? How do we ease in the least painful way those entities that cannot continue to operate at optimum, so that those who have that push and drive to be optimum, in fact, to use George's term, move them out of their way, basically. But do it in a structured way such that the impact on staff, impact on suppliers. I've done work with Jet A1 suppliers, and so many of them have their businesses turned upside down because airline were owing them so much. So the impact is there. So if we understand the impact, that we need to proactively address them. The Madam mentioned something about the Civil Aviation Authority and about the quality of business plans. There is a airline financial health unit within the Civil Aviation Authority. They can be more proactive about checking these airlines so that we don't wait till the inevitable. The last few months, we had very clear example of the situation the airlines find themselves. Immediately, the Civil Aviation Authority announced they've done economic audits. You had one airline grounded. You had one airline proactively ground itself. And you had another one. What happened to the third one now? Because there were three of them. Suspended them for a few days or a few weeks. Why? They were owing so much, and the authority came to the conclusion that you cannot operate safely and securely. You don't have the funds to do that. But they're back flying. But the point I'm making is it is too costly to wait. It does not help the industry be efficient and competitive. It is getting in their way. So I think our bankruptcy laws need to be looked at in ways that can, one, minimize the negative societal impact and start using that as a way to start consolidating. Because ultimately, the industry structure will favor consolidation, getting bigger, and really become operating at the right scale so that we can really get effective airlines functioning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for the homework you have given Osayaba. I see, good day, sir, a couple of other senior advocates here, Mr. Jumogovia, SAN, Dr. Ajayi, SAN, and his managing partner as well, SAN. So there are a number of people here who can address your comments on bankruptcy laws. And thank you very much for the additional homework. I thought I was getting an easy answer from you, but you sent us back to the classroom. So at this point, Mrs. Shoshina, I would ask for your comments, ma'am. About 2 minutes, if you can just wrap it up in 2 minutes.
I'm going to take George up on something that he said. He said, we pay this, we pay that, we pay NCAA. The truth of the matter is that no airline pays NCAA. The passenger pays NCAA. NCAA is the only organization whose work is directly to the passenger. And so the passenger pays NCAA. But most of the airlines come in thinking that they pay NCAA through the airlines just to ease the experience of the passenger, so that the passenger doesn't stay here, pay there, pay there. That's all. So these monies are supposed to be remitted to NCAA, but the airlines feel they can keep it and use it to fund their airlines. So I needed to put that out in the space, because they go to the press, electronic, print, whatever, and they say, we pay NCAA, we pay the agencies. So this is not correct. And that's why sometimes, if they owe so much, they will take them to task for that. Now, talking about the Continental Initiative, you said I should address. Africa has a huge population, over 1 billion. We have roughly 11.6 square miles. We have a large middle class. At least that was pre-COVID. I don't know about now. I will leave it to Phillips Consulting to let us know that. But we do not, in terms of global traffic, we account for just about 3%. We have poor air connectivity. We have low traffic, because on some routes, especially because the fares are just too high. And so there isn't enough traffic. The cost of tickets is prohibitive. A lot of people who would want to travel, to go see places, to go see people, they cannot do it. And the cost of tickets is high because the cost to the airlines is also high. Then there are various taxes, there are various charges. We have restrictive visa policies, because in Africa, everybody is afraid that they're coming to steal ideas, to dump people, forgetting that Africa is not necessarily where people want to go. But all the same, they keep protecting their own markets. We have issues of security, safety in some climes. Thank God in Nigeria, it's vastly improved. We have poor airport infrastructure, inadequate transit facilities, even in Nigeria, and a lot of regulatory constraints. So, African leaders sat down and were like, what can we do? They had tried it years before, and they thought, let's give it a try again. Let's see how we can help our airlines, how we can help our people, how we can integrate Africa. And they came up with this single air transport market, African air transport market. Now, why is it not working? That was why you said I should address. It's not working because a lot of people do not fully understand the relationship between SATIM, which is the Single African Air Transport Market, and the Yamoussoukro decision, which was the initiative that was embarked upon, that was endorsed by the heads of states in 1999, which failed. And I dare say, without being attacked by George and the airline heads here, that it failed mainly because of the airlines. Because the airlines were not willing to venture out. They were afraid they were going to die, and they convinced their principals that if you open up, we will die. And that's why it hasn't worked. The same still holds true for the SATIM today. Because so long as the airlines and powers and shakers convince their governments not to open up, Africa will continue to suffer. Africa will not move forward. Africa will not become the giants, the states will not become the giants that you have in the rest of the global space. So we also have high operating costs. That is one of the reasons why it's not working. Limited access to funding for airlines. Financing is difficult for them. I agree with George on that. But again, the initiatives that were put in, some of the initiatives that were put in place to make it easy for airlines to access, funds and improve their fleet and modernize their fleet. These have not been utilized by a lot of our airlines. ARIC utilized the Cape Town Convention, and that helped a great deal. So those are some of the reasons. Lack of political will is another. And then properly articulating, advertising the system in a way that will make it easier for people to understand is another. And I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Iyabo Shosina is former Secretary General of the Africa Civil Aviation Commission. And as you will tell, she was the right person to answer those regional questions. And Mr. Babatunde Adeniji, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Is a partner, General Sales and Solutions Management Limited. Thank you, Mr. George Uresi, COO, Ibom Air, our pride, our skies. Thank you very much, sir. We come to the end of the panel session, but we couldn't even begin to travel and explore Nigeria or explore the continent if we don't even have what is most fundamental to international travel, and that's a passport. And you couldn't have a passport if you don't have an immigration authority, which is under the supervision of the Honorable Minister for Interior, Alhaji Rauf Aregbe Shola. He's not here today, but he's ably represented by Ademola Adeyinka, who is his special advisor on strategy, innovation, and delivery at the Ministry of Interior. And he will deliver the Honorable Minister's remarks very kindly. Please come up, sir, and do so. The panelists can now come down. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Do you want to come up to do it, or do you want to do it here with the podium? Okay, that podium.
Good morning, distinguished guests. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol, but while at the same time recognizing Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Ogun State. The Honorable Minister of Interior has asked me to express his profound regret for not being here today. He has called me out 5 times to find out how the proceedings are going and is up to date with what is happening at this event today. So my job is much easier. He has only asked me to deliver a speech he has written, while also apologizing for his inability to be here. He's currently out of the country. If he had the opportunity to join via Zoom, I'm sure he would have done that and delivered this directly. He has titled his paper or his speech, "The World Up in the Air." Not quite. It gives me great pleasure to be at this breakfast seminar on the aviation sector. I must therefore thank the leadership of Phillips Consulting for the kind invitation to this program as part of the activities commemorating the 30th anniversary of this foremost management consulting firm. Aviation is a significant leap for mankind since the Wright brothers flew the first plane on December 17, 1903. It used to take great heroism to be able to travel any applicable distance. We used to be fraught with dangers and grave risks. Many never returned from their journeys due to bandit attacks, sickness and diseases, settlements along the path, and other unwholesome factors. But there have been quantum leaps in aviation over the century with the development of supersonic jets that made air transportation fun and movement of large number of people across vast lands possible. Radar evading supersonic fighter bombers that can make vertical landing and takeoff have been developed and deployed. The longest commercial flight from New York to Singapore covers 9,537 miles and is being accomplished in 18 hours, 50 minutes today. Before now, such a trip would have been considered suicidal and would have taken months to complete, if at all. The production of flying cars have been licensed while we await the commercialization of the holy grail of aviation, individual flying suits with bated breath. But for visas and rising costs, the whole world would probably have been in the air. Still, in 2019, before the COVID-19 slowdown, 4.5 billion passengers flew from one destination to another globally that year. In the same year, 6.5 million passengers were in the air in Nigeria. The airlift of soldiers in Oshogbo for the Second World War and the landing of a plane in Kano in 1925 were milestones in aviation in Nigeria. The high cost of air tickets has, however, not allowed the aviation industry to blossom in Nigeria, considering our huge population and the adventurous nature of our people. Yet, the industry has great and unimaginable potential for growth. National unity and interaction would have been more enhanced if air travels have been more affordable to a wider spectrum of people. With the recent increase in price, only the affluent can afford to fly. Interestingly, Nigeria has an impressive collection of private jets that does not reflect the challenges of the masses to access air travel, but rather the huge disparity between the rich and the poor in the country. There is also a puzzling disparity in cost of air travel between Nigeria and Euro-America. It is somewhat noticeable that flying the same distance in Europe costs less than in Nigeria, and sometimes buying the same flight ticket from Nigeria to a European destination from Europe might be cheaper than buying it in Nigeria. Something seems not to be right with these differences. I try to look at the variables like the cost of aviation fuel and wages for workers, but Nigeria seems not to be much of a disadvantage, if at all. What then could be responsible? I think the lead speaker has probably thrown a lot of light on what could be responsible for this. Definitely, there are challenges, but we need to keep re-examining and refashioning our business models for our people to be well and better served, and for the gains of aviation to come at an accelerated speed. If aviation is well developed and services are more affordable, it will create more jobs. Air cargo haulage will increase and will take some pressure off our roads, with goods getting to users faster and eliminate other risks on the roads. More importantly, it will open up the country and enhance more air travels for business and pleasure. The multiplier effect on the economy and the way of life of other people will be gargantuan. The Ministry of Interior is directly and indirectly involved with aviation. The ministry grants visas to foreigners to come to our country and business and work permits to investors and highly skilled foreign workers. And I must underscore that the aviation industry is a major beneficiary of visa on arrival and also work permits and also expatriate quota approval. The Nigerian Immigration Service issues Nigerian passports and process visitors in all our borders, including at the airports day in, day out. The functioning of the ministry and the Nigerian Immigration Service, therefore, directly and indirectly affect the aviation industry. From 2019 to date, the ministry has processed and granted 1,219 business permits, 2,706 expatriate quotas, and renewed 7,424 expatriate quotas. Well, expatriate quotas refer to the statutory approval that foreigners must have before they can work in Nigeria. The NIS is actively manning Nigeria's borders and monitoring of migration activities across the 114 land borders, 5 air border control posts, 72 border patrol bases, and 12 forward operation bases. Nigeria is a signatory to Africa Continental Free Trade Area or Free Trade Agreement of the African Union, which came into force on May 30, 2019, and which prompted the visa on arrival policy, which we are implementing. All that travelers from qualified nations visiting Nigeria on short-term basis need to do is register online, buy tickets, and fly to Nigeria for the collection of visa on arrival at Nigerian airports. I emphasize Nigerian airports because visa on arrival is not applicable to those who are traveling through the land borders. So I had to underscore the Nigerian airports. We also have the Advanced Passenger Information System, which alerts our system of the intention, travel, and biometric details the moment a visitor buys ticket to come to Nigeria. We have fully implemented biometric visa at all entry points into the country. Hitherto, there was a paper-stamped visa with no security and personalization features. Nigeria has also activated the Migration Information and Data Analysis System, MIDAS, which makes processing of migrants seamless at our borders. Our system is connected to Interpol online real-time, making it possible for us to uplink details of lost or stolen passports and get updates on suspected criminals and persons on wanted lists of international security architecture who might be arriving at our shores. NIS unveiled the Nigeria Visa Policy 2020 in compliance with the Presidential Order, Executive Order 1001 on ease of doing business, including the expansion of visa categories from 6 to 79. The implication of the expansion of the visa categories is to underscore the specific reason a visitor is coming to Nigeria. The NIS has also produced 1.9 million passports between 2021 and June 2022. This year alone, 625,000 booklets have been produced out of the 750 applications received. A total of 1.3 million passports were produced last year. What we have introduced, or what we have observed, is that there is a year-on-year growth rate on passport application, and that is not unexpected. We have a huge youthful population, and these are population of people who are migrants. We should also understand that Nigeria has become a major exporter of labor. So that is driving the production of passports and the application for passports. People are traveling to work everywhere across the globe. Yes, we also have people who are doing online, working remotely for international companies locally, but education and labor has suddenly increased the demand for passports. Between 2021 and to date, I think we have seen a spike of about 30% growth rate in passport application. I'll mention that as off remark later so that I can expatiate what we are doing with our passport reform. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has also established transport marshals in conjunction with the Ministry of Transportation to provide physical security to transportation infrastructure in the aviation sector, road sector, including bus terminals, the rail sector, and maritime sector. Let me just use this opportunity to now let this august audience understand what we're doing in our passport reform. The first is we have moved away from paper-based application. Passport application can now be done on the portal. And the portal is friendly and it is very easy to access. What we have also done is that applicants can now choose a date when they can go for biometric capture. We still have a little bit of challenge here. And why do we have that challenge? I mentioned earlier that there's a year-on-year growth on passport application. Currently, we only have about less than 50 passport offices across Nigeria. So if you look at 50 passport offices across Nigeria, serving maybe as many as 10 million people who desire to have passports, then something is wrong with that structure. So what we're trying to do, and which should commence from January, is that we're going to be having front offices across the country, which are not passport offices. The front offices will be special lounges where applicants can freely go to and be comfortably served with the best customer service experience you can have. So we want to move the crowd away from the usual passport offices that are congested to some very friendly and private sector-driven lounges that people can go and do their biometric capture. The work of the immigration officer is still there. They will still be there at those lounges, but at least the crowd will be moved out of the traditional passport offices to the special lounges that we'll have across. We're discussing with banks. Some of them may also have these lounges where biometric capture can be done. We're discussing with hotels where people can also go and do their biometric capture. So what we're going to have is thousands of front offices across the country where this can take place. Now, the other thing we have done is that you can now track the process of your passport from the period you have applied up to the period of production. All you need to do is to go online, put in your application ID, and you will know whether your breeder documents have been verified, whether it has reached production stage, and you'll be able to track it, and when it is ready, you'll be able to go to the passport office to collect it. A number of reforms are coming up in the passport application process, and what we're trying to do generally is to eliminate completely the trauma that Nigerians go through in applying for passport. We have challenges. We know there are a number of unscrupulous elements in the Nigerian Immigration Service who are frustrating this process, but we're on top of our game, and very soon the culture of rent taking from passport applicants will soon be a thing of the past. One other thing we should note about our passport is that the current e-passport that we have, the enhanced passport that we have, is one of the most secured anywhere in the world, and there are only that have adopted this type of passport booklet. It has over 50 different security features, which has made it to be tamper-proof. We're improving that day in, day out. I know there has also been clamor by Nigerians that why shouldn't we domesticate the production of passports? That is also a work in progress. The vision of the Minister of Interior is that by the time we are exiting this government, we would have a passport application process that is seamless, that is very friendly, and that Nigerians can be proud of. But since this is also an August gathering of elite in the society, I also think I need to share some of our own experience in passport renewal particularly. Most of us, we wait till the last minute to want to reissue or renew our passport. I've seen someone who has bought a ticket only to get to the airport to discover that the passport has less than 6 months validity. The rule is that you must have on you, wherever you are traveling to, a passport that has more than 6 months to expire. Most of us forget, and it is very important that we do not forget this any longer. Why? Because of the application system that has been embedded in the NIS portal, it becomes very difficult for you to do emergency passport. We still don't have yet the fast-track service. That is coming up, but it's also going to come at a cost. So if you think that you need to travel, it's always good to have your passport valid for a minimum of. There's nothing in the immigration rule that says that you cannot renew your passport if it is even more than 6 months to validity. So let's encourage our people to renew this passport. And it's putting a lot of pressure on the officials of the Ministry of Interior and also immigration. I mean, big men are here. If they want to travel and they see that the appointment date is in January, they will start calling the minister, they will start calling the CG, and what that means is that those who have been on the queue will now have to be affected by those interventions. So it's important that we adhere very strictly to these principles in the interest of everybody. So, going back to the minister's speech now, I would like to congratulate Phillips Consulting for successfully operating in the challenging but hugely rewarding Nigerian business environment for 3 decades, and has within the period trusted itself in prime position in management consultancy and positioning itself to offer quality services to businesses in Nigeria and beyond. There are still huge gaps in the Nigerian business environment, including but not limited to the culture of excellence in service delivery and a deliberate consciousness of national self-sufficiency. Success in these areas will boost the Nigerian economy and usher prosperity never seen before in this country. I congratulate you once again and thank you for inviting me to this breakfast seminar. I wish you greater success and unending growth in leaps and bounds. I thank you all for your kind attention. Please, if there are questions on the issue of passport, which applies to every one of us, I'll be very happy to take that after the session. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And our thanks to the Honorable Minister for the Interior, Alhaji Rauf Aregbesola. As you all know, breakfast has been waiting, so we're anxious to get to it, and you can ask as many questions about breakfast. But we must also hear from Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Dr. Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele. Engineer, or even better, Engineer Noimot Salako Oyedele. And we all can see the transformative work that Ogun State government has been going through. So now we know who is the brains behind all of that. Thank you very much, man.
The Honorable Minister for Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, the representative of the Honorable Minister for Interior, Mr. Ademola Adeyinka, the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State, Engineer Gbenga Dairo, the Chairman, Phillips Consulting Limited, Mr. Folonshaw Phillips, Mr. Folusho Phillips, I beg your pardon. Chief host today, the Chairman, Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Osayaba Giwa Osage, SAN, the Consul General of South Africa in Lagos, Dr. Bobby Monroe, our guest lecturer, Mr. George Uraisi, our very eminent panelists, Mrs. Shosino and Mr. Adeni, all members of the Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce, all management and staff for Philip Consulting Nigeria, distinguished guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I bring you greetings from His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun, the Governor of Ogun State, who is unavoidably absent at this very important meeting. And I also bring you the goodwill of the good people of Ogun State. It's my pleasure to be here today representing His Excellency at this October breakfast meeting of the Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce. It also coincides with the 30th anniversary of Phillips Consulting under the visionary leadership of Mr. Folusho Phillips. We've had a very interesting morning today. I want to thank Mr. George Uraisi for the very interesting story that he told us. And of course, backed up by the feedback from His Excellency, the Minister, and of course from our panelists. So my assignment here is just to look at this industry from another point of view, from the Ogun State government's point of view. When His Excellency got into office, one of the things that was immediately apparent to him was that our agenda, which we term ISHARE, infrastructure, social welfare and development, education, youth empowerment, and agriculture. We needed to look at the different enablers for this. And we saw that in developing our agricultural sector, our infrastructural sector, one of our biggest challenges was our transportation sector. And believe it or not, Ogun State did not have a Ministry of Transportation. So one of the first things that His Excellency did was to establish a Ministry of Transportation and bring in a very seasoned professional in the transportation space, Engineer Benga Dairo, to drive this new ministry, to make sure that we create a template and direction for this sector, which will help us achieve our vision for Ogun State. Some of the things that this agency has done since coming on board was to develop an infrastructure master plan for Ogun State. And we now have a strategic multimodal transportation plan for Ogun State in place, which the government of His Excellency started to implement. The sector that is relevant to this breakfast meeting today is the aviation sector. In the early 2000s, Ogun State was granted approval for an agro-cargo airport during the tenure of His Excellency Prince Otumba Gbenga Daniel. But unfortunately, that airport did not see the light of day. But during this administration, we have revisited that approval, and in line with the master plan that we have seen that there is a need for an agro-cargo airport in Ogun State. For people who do not know Ogun State is also termed the Gateway State. We are the only border that Lagos State has. We are the only neighbor that Lagos State has, apart from the ocean. We have an international boundary, and we're a gateway to the West African subcontinent. We border 4 other states across our border. And because of this, a lot of traffic comes through Ogun State to Lagos to feed its citizens, to serve its citizens, and also to go through the air and seaports in Lagos to the rest of the world. This is one of the major reasons that we have congestion on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, with all this cargo coming from right across the country and funneling into Lagos on its way to Apapa or to Ikeja airports. So in developing our master plan, we realized that there's a huge market for cargo and agro-cargo services in Ogun State. And since we had this approval, we quickly moved into actualizing this airport, and construction started on this airport early last year. All things being equal, we'll be inviting a lot of you here for the inaugural flight, which will land at the airport in the first quarter of 2023. Here in Ogun State, we do things right, and this is also people like Mr. Phillips are part of our think tank in Ogun State who help us and give us direction in things that we do. Thank you, please. And one of the challenges that we see in this country is the issue of white elephant projects, where people create projects but do not actually provide the sustainability of these airports. And we have gone ahead and signed an MOU with a company called Arise LLP. And they have created special export processing zones in Gabon, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Togo, Benin, and Mauritania. And we have invited them to create an aerotropolis around our airport. And we have committed about 6,000 hectares of land for this aerotropolis, where we're going to have agro-processing so that we can actually aggregate raw materials from around the country, improve the value, added value on the agri value chain, and make them suitable for export. And also, the reverse, bring things in this aerotropolis where, with the large amount of labor that we have in this country, we can also be an assembly plant for a lot of businesses around the world, which can then be redistributed. The finished products can be redistributed across Nigeria or re-exported from Nigeria, and that aerotropolis becomes a very big hub. Just on Monday, I represented His Excellency in Abuja at the launch of the African Development Bank's Special Agro-Processing Zone, Ogun State being one of the beneficiaries of that as well. And this agro-processing zone will also be in this area so that we can funnel